You already know what Fortnite is, we can skip the intro. Hi everybody, I'm here on vacation, and I gotta take breaks every once in a while. Alright, let's start. Our first time point is a simple one, the Big Bang. When the big ol' bang happened, the universe as we know it went from not existing to probably existing. The universe would build itself, it would grow, it would evolve, so on and so forth. It's why we all exist now. However, before the Big Bang, there was the nothing, this being the concept of nothing, the concept of not existing as a cosmic entity that existed for an undetermined amount of time. So when the bang decides to big, it suddenly produced the 0 point as a second unfathomably powerful omnipotent being. We don't really know what it is, but it sure is. The 0 point is the polar opposite of the nothing, and supposedly is capable of linking together every universe that has shown up since the Big Bang, making it so each reality could reach each other through the 0 point through like reality shenanigans. Now this would be the case for about 99.9999998% of all of time. We're already almost done with the timeline. No, I'm just messing with you. The last 0.0000002% is where things start falling apart. One day, possibly thousands of years ago, a faction showed up called the Imagined Order, led by this guy named Geno showed up, with the goal of creating the perfect genetic society. And so he took a nice old gander at the 0 point and was all like, ah, crackers, man, we gotta get that blue stuff and put it in a box. So they got that blue stuff and they put it in a box, trapping the 0 point in this place called the Bridge. Alongside Geno, members include his two daughters, the Imagined and the Order. Great names, I'm sure he thought real hard about those ones. We also got Dr. Sloan as a second in command, alongside Agent John Jones, who in terms of being important to the Imagined Order, he's just okay. But in this overall tale, he's a special little friend who we will all love by the end. The Order sends Agent Jones to be experimented on in the 0 point. In response, it creates a new type of person called a snapshot, with this snapshot being Jonesy the First, just good old default player Jonesy. Physically, Jonesy the First was present, but mentally he was about the same as a scared deer you would run over in the deep Midwest. The Order then continues to learn and use the 0 point, firmly grasping and taming what can only be described as the mother of everything to ever. Eventually, with all this new stuff learned, the Imagined Order is gonna go and create the most despicable and rotten and mischievous thing comprehensible with this silly old blob of blue, and for thousands of years forced the creation of the Loop, which involves abusing the 0 point to grab worthy-ish people from all kinds of realities and universes where they would fight for 22-minute cycles in the Battle Royale gameplay, where top combatants might just get recruited to join the Imagined Order, or in some cases, they downright escape the loop with no consequence. For example, Batman does it, so it just requires Batman-level skill. If you want to know what the loop is like, just go play Fortnite. That's what the loop is. Like, every game is canon, every death is canon, and the storm is like an extra thing that comes from the loop, preparing to happen over and over until potentially the end of time itself. And all of this has been taking place located at the center of it all at Reality Zero, the name for this location, for this cycle, for this sick and twisted plan the Imagined Order is brewing in the demonic realm of Fortnite. Every person stuck on the island is referred to as a looper. They lose a good chunk of their memories, and with very, very few exceptions, unless they break out of the loop, are unable to speak. Now, the Imagined Order, I won't lie, they've been kind of uncool fellas this whole time, with the whole never-ending fight to the death thing, and it gets especially bad when a looper gets to leave the loop. Snapshots then show up, treat all of this stuff like catch-alls, and ways to justify all of these characters and crossovers being able to stay in the game for so long without any issues in their respective existences. Marvel, DC, Star Wars, sports, Capcom, basically anything that is not Nintendo will have their characters or people dragged in here one way or another. Their characters will win relatively early on, and then an endless supply of them are going to show up via snapshots. Or not, you know, it's completely illogical and stupid when these characters are all canon and count and show up in each battle pass. It's stupid. It's dumb. I don't like it already. The problem with a lot of these characters is that they can be taken at points where it completely obliterates their respective narratives. With all superheroes, it's not a big deal, but you can make a new Superman, you can make a new Iron Man, it's fine. The same thing happens with Rick and Morty. It's technically canon because there's infinite Ricks and infinite Mortys, so it makes sense. But then we got Peter Griffin, and Family Guy will collapse upon itself without Peter Griffin. And then we also got like all the anime characters who are taken in their primes, and then like deliberate spider people who are established and emphasized as necessary to their worlds. What do you do then? What's gonna happen when Sonic bounces around in Fortnite land? Honestly, it doesn't matter. We can ignore it. The fun thing about a multiverse story is that you can just say a multiverse happened, and that removes all need to make confidence where these characters come from. We can just say they got taken from different worlds from the main ones, and it's fine, you know? Plus, Fortnite doesn't respond to my DMs, so I guess we'll never know. I just gotta stress this. The Imagined Order's been in control for millennia. They've been out and about stealing as many people as possible from all kinds of realities just because it's funny. The problem with having infinite people getting stuck in your loop is that eventually the infinite people stuck in your loop are gonna accumulate at least a few who are gonna resist the very thing you got going on. With that being said, this is the 7. We got a team of 6.5 members who want to go around and protect the 0 points, so all universes can finally stop being dragged into Fortnite. First up, we got the Foundation. This is Dwayne Johnson. This is the leader. We don't gotta worry about this guy. He's fine. Then we got the that one. If I mispronounce it, it's fine. I'm told she does cool stuff. Then there's the Scientist. He's a scientist. The Imagined and the Order will leave the Imagined Order just out of guilt. Good for them. And then there's the Origin and the Visitor, who I'm gonna save until we get there. Along with this resistance, we also gotta deal with the last reality, this basically being the folks who work with the Nothing. See, Nothing and 0 Point got a lot of beef. The 0 Point keeps making life. The Nothing wants Nothing to be around. So the Nothing nabbed an army capable of sending things like zombies and Kevin the Cube to goof up the Imagined Order's testing of the loop. So the Nothing has agreed to spare this reality just so the rest of it can be nothing. The last reality as such has a simple goal: make every other reality freaking die. And so Reality 0 has to go. They really only have 2 characters of importance right now, those being the Cube King and the Cube Queen. And even then, the King did the math. He thought about it, he realized, wait a second, every other reality besides mine is a lot of deaths on my hands. I don't know if I like that very much. And he did like that very much. Instead, he grabbed one of those sticks and blanket things I see in every cartoon, but I don't know what they're called. And then the Cube King leaves his home, joins the 7, and becomes the Origin. And with all of that being said, we have now finished the prologue. All of that was set up, that was revealed slowly across the years, but now we know it all, so we don't need to backtrack. We are now officially at the start of the game on July 21st, 2017, Chapter 1. It's Fortnite. For the first 6 months, we witnessed what's really just fighting without rhyme or reason. At this time, we don't know what's going on, but nowadays, we can rest easy knowing that this is the equivalent of purgatory. The only thing I remember about this era was all the empty mountains on the west. Why were there so many mountains? There was only like 2 locations on the west side. Did they just forget to add more? I remember I got my first solo win right here, and then I got Black Knight because I grew up in an isolated house in the woods. There was no neighborhood kids, only Fortnite, the rodents in the walls, and the voices in my head. In actuality, we can skip the first 2 seasons and go straight to season 3 and 4, when on March 20th, 2018, a giant meteor made its merry way into Fortnitopia and decimates Dusty Depot. Now, in this meteor, the Visitor somehow found his way into the rock and for a time becomes subjected to suffering in the loop. All while this is happening, funny Fortnite people are superheroes. And then it's revealed that this is not real, none of this is real, there will never, ever be superheroes in Fortnite. Just give it like 2 seasons, it's fine. Visitor, disappointed by this mid-season reveal, decides to reprogram a prop rocket used in the movie to go back to his home base, and after being trapped on the island for about 3 months, is able to escape. But he causes a rift so rifty and sticky it starts snatching things up from all kinds of realities, with the most impactful one being a portion of the California desert, swapping places with the ever iconic location Moisty Mire. This implies Moisty Mire is in California. Out of all buildings, all the gunk taken, we only know about one real-world person being taken by the rift. They go by Drift, who across the loading screens tragically converts to the ways of Fortnite, once being a bystander, now stuck as a cog in the loop. It's a lovely summer in 2018, seeing Drift and all of his new pals go on wacky adventures across the island every 22 minutes until the rift strikes a mighty lightning in the California desert and out pops Kevin the Cube. Now, Kevin was on a mission. This brave little cube would take a brave journey to each major end of the island, one step at a time, each step being extremely big and physics-defying, and usually like 1 or 2 hours apart. Along the way, he would leave some runes on the ground and slaughter any poor loopers who dare defy him by shooting them and killing them. At the end of his brave little cubic voyage, he ends up at Loot Lake, where Kevin would then dissolve into Loot Lake and contaminate the water supply like any cube would. Now, permanently damaging a major body of water was not enough to satisfy Kevin, so he decides that the lovely little house in the middle middle was going to be a floating island from now on. And so Kevin's island would then become a viable Smash Bros. Stage. If Fortnite ever gets added, it'll be funny. Make this the stage, though. Now, across Season 6, Kevin, being the little miscreant he is, he makes his merry way all around Fortnite, getting more and more powerful until near Halloween. We got Fortnitemares 2018, where Kevin would go back to the big crater he left behind in Loot Lake, make a giant shockwave, and it starts leaking cube monsters. This makes Kevin leak, but it ends up doing quite a number to our QB pal. Kevin starts dying, and then he explodes, and all of the loopers are brought to this new dimension, the in-between, where this crystal butterfly flaps all over Fortnite and all the Fortnite friends and transports them back into a beautiful loot lake. Wow, what a lovely time. I'm sure glad that that's all over and Purgatory can continue. I'm sure from here on out, nothing else is gonna happen ever again. This is the point where Santa would invade Fortnite. This is Sergeant Winter. For the sake of this, he is essentially a militaristic iteration of Santa. He seems pretty cool. I'll give him like an 8 out of 10 as a Santa. The big event of the season is that the bottom left of the map has a giant iceberg collide that everyone just rolls with for no real reason. Greasy Grove is frozen over, Flush Factory is gone, even though, be honest, he didn't care. One of the new locations, Polar Peak, has an ice castle full of hate and ice and a giant monster. What are you? Well, we don't know and we won't know. Well, not yet at least. Really, all that you gotta know is that the island thaws out as the season continues. So by the end, it's just another thing we gotta deal with. A consequence of this that literally nobody had control over, nobody could say anything about, just had to watch in horror. There's this fire guy, and he looks at the Ice King, the one of this season, and on the opposite side of the map, and he goes, well, I'm gonna do that, but also the opposite of that. Yes, sirree, I'm fire versus ice. This is what Season 8 is going to be about, probably. The prisoner then starts a wildfire, burning all of Wailing Woods in the process. What a dick. By the way, the prisoner is also the Fire King, so he reclaims that in that section of the island. This causes a big old volcano to show up, and now this is unacceptable. See, the Imagined Order doesn't quite like new stuff going on. They were fine with the iceberg collision, they were fine with the giant purple cube crushing people and bringing monsters and zombies to destroy everything mid-season, but a volcano? Oh, hell no. So the Order starts preparing excavations across the island just as a precaution to prevent an eruption, and they also discover a vault under Loot Lake, and this was just a whole disaster for the Imagined Order. Like, the loopers find out about the vault, and considering a majority of the player base had the same level of distraction as a moth to a source of light, or your mother with a college fraternity house, the first instinct was to dive right in without any concern for their well-being. So inside the vault, we have a bunch of items that were taken out of the game, along with a desk, a helmet, and the 0 point. Hi, 0 point. It doesn't do that much right now. It offers a cigarette, but we believe in abstinence, so it gets a little upset and it kicks us out. But the Fire King, knowing the entire community and population was more concerned about the scary white and blue void with that big blue ball of omnipotence, it then decided it would now be a good idea to erupt the volcano. It deliberately backfires, but just enough to where it breaks even. We lose Retail Row, we lose Tilted Towers for real this time. We had a scare with Kevin, but it only destroyed like this one building that gets destroyed all the time, and it strikes Polar Peak, freaking out the monster underneath. And that was a lot. Let's take a quick breather and enter the minds of some of the unfortunate loopers caught in this horrible attack. We have Jonesy the First, and we have Peely. Now, Peely is a sentient banana man. Like it or not, we are stuck with him. I don't really care for Peely, and I'm tired of pretending I do. Peely has always felt like an industry plant to me. It's like Fish Stick. I like Fish Stick. I think he's silly, but Peely is not that. He is worse. Jonesy and Peely run into a hidden bunker. They find a nice little hangout zone. Only problem is that there's no food. I'm gonna mark this one up as cannibalism. And then a robot opens the door, and now the island is in the future. So cool, Season 9 time. And I'm just gonna assume the exact situation happens to every other looper, so we don't know what was happening in between. This might be a plot hole or something. Yeah, I don't know how the 22-minute loop could cause the construction to occur of all of this stuff. There are so many problems with Fortnite. We're just gonna ignore it. And this fixes everything. All broken buildings have now been improved. I don't think there's anything to... Oh, the Polar Peak monster somehow has managed to sneak into the nearby ocean. And off screen, it beats the prisoner, so he's no longer important. And then the Imagined Order decided to make the volcano into another base in case anything else happens. I'm sure that won't happen. Something like this will happen every 2 months until the end of time or until Fortnite dies, whichever comes first. This event is awesome. The Polar Peak monster, the Devourer, it wants to get to the 0 point, and the IO don't quite jive with that idea, so they're gonna go over and end its life. And they build a Fortnite Mechazord. It's so cool. It's terrific. Giant mecha kaiju fight. It's a brutal, intense 1v1. Somehow 0 casualties, like it matters. It doesn't. And in the end, the IO mech wins when it pulls a sword out of Neo Tilted and fatally ends the beast with the help of the 0 point. In exchange, the 0 point is now exposed. And without the vault, reality starts falling in upon itself, and it takes us straight to Season X. Oh, by the way, I forgot to throw this in, but the mech was piloted by that one. So all the other members of the 7 think she might be a traitor. We can ignore that until it's convenient. This is where the 7 really start to make some moves. Time starts crumbling a bit, and Dusty Depot makes a temporary return. Along with that, the meteor is frozen in time, and in this situation, instead of the visitor being stuck, we gotta deal with the scientist. And the Imagined Order, knowing this, starts to use the mech to trap the loopers. And it works a little too well, because these mechs are considered overpowered and get removed from the game. Thank you, non-casual players. You have done exactly one good thing for the game of Fortnite. Now, before the scientist lands and loses his memory when entering the loop, he records some audio logs to remind his forgetful self on what to do. We also learn here that the visitor got to skip on the looping antics because he entered mid-recess, I think. Yeah, sure. There's a lot. I'll take a B+. So the scientist comes in, he boop-bops the rocket, and the island finale begins to come down. And as every other member of the 7, they fly down, and before you know it, 0 point gets hit by the Dusty Depot meteor, and in response, it real quick forces everybody into a black hole so it can take a breather, just take it all in, get some water. And for 2 days, 2 real-world days, middle schoolers across the globe were in shambles. Was Fortnite over? Okay, that's not how companies work. It's been well established at this point that Fortnite is a powerhouse when it comes to making money. I mean, look at the collabs. There, of course, were some across Chapter 1. Nothing too crazy, though, just some more casual things. Back then, it was a rarity. Nowadays, it's a bi-weekly event that we can expect consistently forever. And of Chapter 1, I would say the most impactful of these crossovers would be Batman's involvement. Now, Batman, along with a lot of collabs, will eventually be important to the story to an extent. And here it's mostly for the purpose of making Tilted Towers into Gotham for a bit. Just be ready for when it comes back. Batman is unfortunately important. And that takes us to the start of Chapter 2 on October 15th of 2019. All I can really describe Chapter 2 is just wonderful. I really love this chapter. I have as much nostalgia as the next guy, but it truly felt like every couple weeks there was something new appearing, and then you could just innovate and mess with the game because of that. And it's really funny seeing this become the blueprint for other live service games and every other game failing to do it. It's not hard to see why Fortnite is at the position it is now. So Chapter 2 Season 1 is more of a welcome back thing. Not too much to swallow, more just introducing all the new funny things to be implemented and seen in the future. But Chapter 2 Season 2 is where Fortnite really starts getting into that modern day rhythm. Across this period, 2 factions would fight and make it everybody else's problem: Ghost and Shadow. And even though this is a battle between agents who appear on both sides of the same place nonstop, who seemingly make no progress on either side, in actuality, this is all a trick. Ooh, a little bunch of lies. This is Midas, the man responsible for this fake fight. While all this was going on, Midas was able to build a device cleverly named the Device. And in the end, Deadpool infiltrates their operation and takes over a yacht. This does not matter. And the season ends at Midas's base with it actually being used. And then it's revealed this was all done in an attempt to hold off the storm and finally end the loop. It fails. Instead, all the loopers get sent to the I.O. offices and see John Jones trying to get the loop back in order and completely struggling. And Midas would have won here, he would have had no issues, but by pure chance, a gigantic flood sweeps over the island and ruins Midas's chance of saving the day. And now the island is flooded. So great. Thus begins Season 3, and the island stops flooding over time. We can kind of just ignore that for now. I have to be honest with you for a minute, though. No matter how you cut it, comics are pretty important to the story of Fortnite. And for the past, 4 seasons, Marvel's been having a story worth looking at. See, Thor, Marvel's Thor, has become the king of his home of Asgard, and life's been going pretty good for him. That is, until Galactus, the same Galactus who beat my ass in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the same Galactus who the MCU is gonna butcher, that Galactus, he's out and about chewing and chomping on planets like the big boy he is. He decides to alert Thor about the Black Winter, which is gonna destroy everything it can possible, and hesitantly, Thor gets to work finding finding 5 unpopulated planets that Galactus can gobble down so he can get strong enough to take down the Black Winter. And it goes well, but near the end of Season X, the Black Hole event starts, a rift appears, and Galactus feels the energy of the 0 point within it. And his tummy starts rumbling. He just gets a little bit hangry. He just gets oh so hungry. He wants to eat the most powerful thing in the Omniverse. But Thor isn't a big fan of that, so he then spends a year zooming into the loop, completely ignores the memory stuff that's starting to stop Galactus, and in order to stop Galactus, summons as many Marvel heroes as possible to fit into the Battle Pass and also stop Galactus. It's very convenient how they work together. Chapter 2. Season 4, August 27th, 2020. It's the Marvel season. A whole batch of Marvel characters all show up with a single objective of preparing for Galactus' hangry harassment of Fortnite. Honestly, they struggle a bit on account of failing to the loop. My logic is that they all kept working through the storm, would die, and then respawn, and it's a very annoying process. Tony Stark, Iron Man, whatever you want to say, he in specific is able to use the Rift powers to get Stark Industries in the island and also get himself out of the loop. Meanwhile, Doctor Doom takes over Pleasant Park. This will be relevant in about 4 years. So Galactus takes a few months to arrive, but he does get there and the fight goes pretty well. Loopers all got their own battle buses with bombs duct taped to them all. I don't know how they got so many buses, but they did, and it all goes well. Galactus eats all the buses going for the 0 point and ends up exploding and falling out of the domain. Hooray, said everybody else. I sure am glad we have Iron Man making stuff now. Maybe we can all escape the loop now that we have an Iron Man on the land, but that didn't happen. It never has, and it never will. The Imagined Order is pissed. They're a bit grumpy, a bit grouchy, and Agent Jones gets a phone call and a new mission, probably from Gino. See, the 0 point is once again exposed and to an extent weakened from the Galactus attack. Agent Jones is now given the task to recruit a whole bunch of people to stop the loopers from escaping, being given a portal gun that also makes him immune to looping. I'm taking this as the idea that the Imagined Order immediately recruited a bunch of people, and anyone who gets added in this specific season becomes an advocate for the IO. In other words, Kratos got very lucky with his networking. The only exception is Master Chief, because he was stuck in a gas station display door. Additional hunters of the IO include Xenomorphs, Daryl Dixon, the Mandalorian, Chun-Li, I think, Tron. Yeah. And this Pancake Man, they are letting anybody in. And it was excessive. Jones overdid it and he got too many rifts open, and this successfully upsets the 0 point. Good job, Jones. The 0 point is now dying, and it's entirely your fault. Instead of curling up into a ball and crying like a little baby, Jones goes completely against what he's done up to this point and fights against all his just personally hired hunters as he throws the portal gun into the 0 point, and as he's doing this, Ryu from Street Fighter kills Peely. This is my hero. When this happens, out comes a new meteor, and with it arrives the Seven's leader, the Foundation. Oh my god, I completely forgot that the 7 were here. Foundation strangles Jones, and they become pals immediately after, as Jones ditches the Imagined Order. All the while, the reality point still continues to break as reality shards show up across the area for a minute. Jones turns into a butterfly, making the closed reality destruction everybody else's problem. As the last resort, the Foundation decides to hold the 0 point together in this big bundle of chromium and saves the day. In exchange, anyone who's entered the island throughout the season are now members of the loop. Oops. And that takes us to Chapter 2, Season 6. I don't really care for this one. This feels more like an intermission season than anything. Like, really, the only thing I think is worth sharing is that the last reality is relevant again. There's this guy, Raz. He's a member of the last reality. He tries doing bad things. He fails. Also, the Foundation is back. That's virtually all you gotta know. But by this point, we were already seeing another comic, that being the Batman 0 point comics. And the story here isn't too hard to comprehend. DC's Deathstroke knocks himself and Batman into a rift, therefore trapping them in the loop. Here, Batman finds Harley Quinn and Catwoman already there, and then his immediate objective is to escape, and the IO, who are looking at Fortnite as a gacha game and this randomly selected bundle of people being dropped into the island, they see they got a mythical Batman, and they don't want to lose that. So the IO drags out Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe because I guess Kratos was on maternal leave or something, and they fight for a couple hours. Ultimately, Snake Eyes lets Batman go, and from here, he and Catwoman discover a whole bunch of escaped loopers, and they then decide to use the bunkers hidden across the island to try and find the IO main base. And then Fishstick freaking dies, dying to the cold hand of Deathstroke, who's working with the IO. He dies and he doesn't respawn. The ending is kinda quick. Deathstroke and Batman fight. This astronaut guy jumps into the 0 point and has his molecules ripped apart, and then everybody escapes, Batman in specific being really depressed. Anyway, moving on. Chapter 2, Season 7, Alien Invasion. Dr. Sloan is here, and she's gonna prepare for the looming war against the aliens. For about a few weeks, they've been abducting random characters, but now it seems like they're gonna do what every other villain's done. Gotta go get the 0 point. Wow! I wonder what makes this group special. It's actually the last reality. They're relevant to the story now. Honestly, it's a very simple objective. They want to take the 0 point and make every other reality go away. However, with Sloan here, she is as much of an enemy as she is a friend. In terms of priority between the 3 factions and who we want to support, it goes Foundation and the 7 are always going to be the main priority, then the Imagined Order, because at least then they don't want to kill us and destroy everything. They just want to make it forever never ending, which it's bad, but it's not the worst case scenario. But then the last reality is the only group we objectively want to prioritize and get rid of. We have a preference. Now, Sloan is aligned with the Imagined Order, and we know that because I emphasized that and I spoiled that at the very beginning. This is the point where it would have been confirmed, but it doesn't matter. And unfortunately, the 7 are not necessarily available at the moment for numerous reasons. A good example of Sloan's goals are found in more Batman comics. This one's a bit faster, but essentially the Foundation enters Gotham when a spire gets destroyed in the previous season, and it turns out Sloan and Lex Luthor decided to open up a rift in DC land because the 0 point is currently out of commission, so the IO is really in shambles. And in the end, though, Foundation uses this to return and get back onto the island, and Batman, who laughs, this being a Batman villain who it was like Joker and Batman combined. I never really cared for him. I don't pay attention to him. He enters the loop, gets his ass beat by Foundation, and Foundation only wants to find Jones. And as this is happening, the island is throwing an Ariana Grande what? So Last Reality is really struggling to find the 0 point on the island, and in an attempt to scan all the minds of the islanders and get any sort of information possible, they get Ariana Grande to perform a concert to do a mind scan of everybody very quickly, because I guess that's how it works. This means that Ariana Grande's alien invasion mind scanning is canon and is justified, whereas Marshmello and Travis Scott were specifically filler activities. Make sure you know the difference. This is filler, this is not. Operation Skyfire. Sloan's plan is simple. She wants to take all the loopers sitting at Coney Complex to get abducted and sent to the alien prison. Then Sloan's gonna hack the cells for everybody, and then Coney Complex is gonna have a bunch of bombs stuck to it, blow up the ship, instant victory. This part goes swimmingly. Unfortunately, Kevin returns, but those little backpacks hurt our lovable little cube, and now I no longer even remotely like Dr. Sloan, remotely even a tad. And this is the part where she messes up very bad. She decides, yeah, y'all can just die in the scary alien spaceship. I don't give a hoot. I don't give a hoot. As she like opens up a pack of Fun Dip or something. So great. All the loopers are out of the loop and at risk of permadeath in the Last Reality's giant this thing. As a last resort, they reboot Kevin to be a friendly cube, and as a thank you for removing all the hate and malice from his cubic cubiness, Kevin brings everybody to this giant cube storage room where everybody is safely launched back onto the island with the new cubes. And this makes it so nobody necessarily won the operation, because in the following season and Chapter 2's finale, the cubes all start moving around just in time for the spooky, scary 2021 Fortnitemares event, where out pops the Cube Queen. You know, the head of the Last Reality invasion. Not a big deal, just summons a bunch of freaky things to attack the loopers. Another battle begins. IO makes a base to prepare. Cube Queen makes a pyramid with the cubes, and Kevin changed his name to Blevin because he's blue. In the finale, we got the IO, Blevin, and all the loopers versus the Queen. And it's just a straight up gunfight. At first, the Last Reality had a tremendous lead, with the Queen creating a rift to the Last Reality Armada as they shatter Blevin. This death is a little less impactful. If you bring a character back and then kill them again, it means nothing. This cube has died about 3 times. So meanwhile, as this is happening, as everything the IO has worked for is at risk, Sloan decides that this is the appropriate time to execute Agent Jones. But the Foundation sneaks in, slaughters some agents, and then he and Jones escape, leaving Sloan to do something I don't even know what it was. Back at the top, the Visitor and the Scientist have been helping to slow down the Cube Queen's invasion, but have to open up a bunker so the loopers can retreat, leading up with everybody regrouping at the bridge where the island's gyro anchor resides. And desperate times call for desperate measures, my friends. Foundation decides the only way we can stop the Cube Queen is to literally force the rift portal shut by flipping the island over, which somehow has an already completely established island with its own locations and society, perfect for more Fortnite fighting. Because in Chapter 2, and only in Chapter 2, the realm is flat, or like two plates stacked on each other and like this way. So both have their own sides, own contents, and the planet is flat, so flipping the island isn't out of the question. And it's a success. Everybody is dragged out of the ocean and watches the island not only flips, but causes the IO to remain trapped on the Chapter 2 side, and the Cube Queen to fail. And then a massive, another massive wave, I think this is the second one, sweeps everybody into the water, taking us straight into Chapter 3. Timeout. Now, I know the Battle Royale is easily the thing Fortnite's known for, sure, but one thing we fail to consider during all these goofy recaps is anything that isn't Battle Royale. Like Fortnite has always tried to be this entertainment titan with all these characters and special game modes. But we also have to look at the initial intention of Fortnite, that being Save the World, a game imprisoned at the very back of the Epic Games game selection, acting as a PvE mode where teams of 4 go up against the monsters created by the storm that somehow managed to slaughter 98% of the population there. Save the World is the mediocre sibling of an A-list celebrity, but we gotta give Save the World some love. Plus, it actually has connections to the more recognized mode. Characters from Save the World get abducted and added to the Battle Royale as loopers, but in some cases, we have people who never get brought over. It's really nice to look at a completely different area and setting, and it gives us a better idea of seeing what specifically the Last Reality is actually capable of, because the Last Reality is entirely responsible for deploying the main thing responsible for the apocalypse, that being the Storm King, which just essentially sweeps in and slaughters billions of people pretty effortlessly. There was an attempt to save the world by a technology company by the name of VinderTech, and I'm shocked this is never brought up. This is an incredibly important company in Save the World and Battle Royale. This is a company founded by a Dr. Vinderman and is implied to be responsible for the creation of weaponry and technology like the Battle Bus, the Storm Shield, and the V-Buck. That's right, this company's responsible for the creation of one of the most valuable currencies in our modern day. Billions of real-world dollars have been burned to this icon. Before losing and perishing to the Storm King, Vinderman would invent a helper bot named Ray, who, just like everyone else, would abandon Save the World to be in the Battle Royale. Hell, even Vinderman does that. Like, before he died, he made himself into an AI by the name of Dr. Vinderbot, and eventually that enters Save the World. It's incredible how everyone will abandon their respective realities to go hang out with Goku and Optimus Prime in Purgatory. I perceive Save the World like I do Battle Royale when it comes to the story, and most live services games for that matter. There will never be a satisfying conclusion because there can't be, because these games rarely know when they're gonna end, so both modes stagnate on decent conflicts that'll eventually be resolved to make room for the next one, and continue the loop forever. I have no quarrels with Save the World, it's just that the premise is the story. We don't need to go into the deepest pits of Save the World, because it's a reflection of its position in Fortnite. Even though there is something here, maybe even of value, it's left in the dust because of popularity and priority. Like the only thing I would say worth noting is Vinderman has an assistant named Desiree, and she sacrifices herself in one of the many raids of the game, and that's really unfortunate. The initial idea of Fortnite was this, but nobody's gonna give it a chance. I played it, I had tons of fun, but it's just how it is, I'm afraid. I'm sure Epic Games have learned from their mistakes and aren't gonna do anything like it again. I set December 5th, 2021, Chapter 3 time. Following the flip, loopers regroup with the Foundation where he shares that if we free the 0 point, everyone can go home. This new island is referred to as the flip side, so we're gonna stick with it. The first season, like usual, it isn't too bad, just following the 7 as he tries to free the 0 point and locate the Perishim. I'm just gonna say that for the rest of this time. I hope I'm right, I don't care if I'm wrong. And then Chapter 3 Season 2 comes in and the IO's all like, no, you're not gonna get the 0 point that easily, you silly, lovable, iconic character Foundation you, and drills its way from the flip side to the other side, so now there's a war. Our team spends most of it with the 7 while finding the Perishim where possible, whereas the IO makes a collider that is so strong it can destroy everything, because if they can't have the 0 point, nobody can. Simple as that. Oh, did I mention that there's more comics? There's more comics, by the way. Here's Marvel Zero War. The Visitor comes up with a plan to destroy the Collider using a mech that the Persian piloted before her disappearance all the way back in Chapter 1, Season 9. So Spider-Man, Jones, and the Seven all go to respective locations. Some go to a moon because I guess the mech is up there now, while a few characters head over to Earth 616 to get a fragment of the 0 point. And Wolverine, you know, that lovable stabby knuckle guy, he refuses until the Imagined seduces him. In canon, Wolverine is a switch. The people on the moon get the Persian pretty easily, learning that she had to work with the IO, or else the Collider would have been built in Chapter 1. We also learned that the IO, they already suck, but they super suck. Like the Imagine and her sister were thrown into the loop initially by their father Gino, and immediately got replaced by Snapshots when they didn't win immediately. We also find out the reason for Jones doing any of this is just because he has a 9-to-5. He needs to sustain it. The IO pays well. They would have provided generational wealth, kept his family floated, they had good dental, they had all of that. And here's something else neat. The Ice King, all the way back at the start, is apparently a good guy, possibly. He doesn't look like one, but I think he is. Regardless, he was in part responsible for imprisoning the Fire King and Devourer, as they were both considered multiversal threats. Anyway, Dr. Doom from Dr. Doom has the 0 point shard, and then he gets his ass beat. I'm sure this character will never be plot relevant in specific in Chapter 5, Season 4. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but probably not. And then part of the comic overlaps with the collision event, where the mech starts smacking up the Collider and hardly save everything as Peely drives in and saves the day. I still don't like you. On the Collider, Wolverine, the Imagined, and the Order. Please remember that the Imagined and the Order are good, and the Imagined Order is different and bad. I'll see Gino actually doing something to forward the plot. And within a few seconds, the Imagined chucks herself and Gino into the 0 point, where Gino just goes, alright, well, if I'm dying, we're destroying everything that's ever existed ever. Meanwhile, at ground level, Jones distracts Dr. Sloan as she gets crushed, supposedly killed off through the mech crushing her. And as Gino and the Imagined are painfully ripped apart to a molecular level, Gino explains he was just trying to make the perfect reality. And I already covered that at the very beginning. We don't care. So the Imagined is implied deceased, Io loses real hard, and Gino is seen reforming in another reality for some unexplained stupid reason. Because they can't kill anyone! They can't kill anyone! They can't! Chapter 3, Season 3. Man, what a stressful collection of events. I'm sure the Loopers would love not to escape but enjoy their summer with the 0 point being kind enough to make a big old tree. Throughout the season, we really only follow the scientist as he tries to communicate with the 0 point, and near the end, just entirely out of nowhere, the Chrome. Hope you didn't forget about the last reality, because they are here again. Just like in Save the World and in previous seasons, to destroy. Oh goody. Time to destroy a ton of the story and characters in 2 minutes. The Origin, Scientist, and Visitor all get turned into Chrome. Just a weird substance that liquidates anyone who touches it, who flies away last second and hides with the 0 point. And in addition, Foundation and the Order both go missing, and we don't really know where they are at the current moment. And because of all of this, we're just out of characters that aren't Jones, Peely, Perishim, or Loopers. So we gotta fix that. This is the Herald, member of the last reality and really passionate about the nothing. I wish I could talk to a therapist, but I'm not telling any therapist about Fortnite lore. Chapter 3, Season 4, we're dead. No other way around it, to be honest. The only real people worth noting that we can work with are Jones and an AI the scientist made named Amy. This entire season is just coming to terms as the Chrome and the Herald makes its way down to the reality tree and to the fracture event. The Persian makes a power move with her homeland technology to force the 0 fusion. What this boils down to is essentially just it allows another island to be formed as the Chrome and the last reality explodes the previous one. What this essentially boils down to is that another island is formed via the Chrome. That is the end of Chapter 3. And honestly, that's the last thing the Seven has done. Even though 3 of them are implied to be alive, even though another 3 are in Chrome, and even though one of them might still be alive because Gino might still be alive because I guess getting your molecules ripped apart, I guess a girl can live through that. This, along the fact that the Imagined Order is extremely weakened and the last reality really has nothing going going on because they lost a bunch of their powerhouses. We're in a weird limbo state, and despite how many characters that already exist, so few of them are ever plot relevant from this point forward. So few of them actually matter beyond a single event. Like Midas is still alive after being eaten by a shark, and nothing's gonna get done about it. I think here especially is where the storyline begins to fade. Like Chapter 2 and the start of 3 use their limited resources and events to tell compelling stories about these 3 factions and any sort of fourth party that might show up. It's just like Fortnite is known to do. Have extra parties show up and destroy the current one so nobody goes anywhere, and it's an eternal loop until there's an eventual winner, and then there's just another game. Again, just like Fortnite, they try to juggle everything and then it gets too hard to maintain. Some of them aren't worth investing time into, and it falls apart. Oh, but making Fortnite Disney World? Oh, no, that one can stay. I wish Save the World was more popular. Chapter 4. I'll remember this chapter for making Optimus Prime a Battle Pass exclusive on one of the least fun seasons ever produced in the game. Woohoo! So now we're left with only 3 actually important characters. Jones, he's been established, currently just floating in space because of the events at the end of Chapter 3. Then we have Amy, who across the first couple of seasons gets a body built and is really just a rep of the 7. And then the Ageless, who is a more chillax snapshot of Gino. The first half of the chapter quite literally boils down to Amy failing to find the 7, allegedly they are still alive. The last reality has all their data scrubbed from all in-game databases. The Ageless sets up rifts because he keeps having scary nightmares about Gino, probably. So in other words, the 7 are just being teased, the last reality is not known about, and they probably won't be, and the imagined order is implied to be controlling everything behind the scenes. We're back in Chapter 1! I hate Chapter 4, Season 3. I appreciate Optimus, cool, great, love him. That's all though. An earthquake reveals a jungle on the island, destroying a marginal chunk of the fall biome, which was near perfect. I love this area, why would you make it less? Optimus Prime pretends to be plot relevant, and somehow, Dr. Sloan survives, citing that an eclipse is coming. And I mean, that's true technically, I just think that this is stupid. So we have this additional new guy, Kato Thorn, and he does heists. But also, he is a time-traveling vampire, and also the TikTok guy is here. He makes the funny face. Dr. Sloan wants the time machine. She does not get it. Kato wants island treasures. He probably gets them. Joan is still flying in space at a perfect time and place. He arrives back on the island and sends himself back to Chapter 1, Season 5 in the Fortnite OG event. By this unfortunate technicality, we have not only figuratively regressed the story into Chapter 1, we have literally lost all our progress. Everyone, every looper, every snapshot, everyone except for Kato and Dr. Sloan and Ageless and maybe even Amy have all been sent back to the events of Chapter 1, potentially eradicating them all from the story. Fortnite OG, cool. Great, lovely idea. It has doomed the narrative. All of this storytelling will probably never come back, and I'll never be happy. Or they'll do it, and then they'll get rid of it for another season. I will be shocked if I am wrong. Oh, but don't worry, Peely's still around. We like Peely, don't we? We don't. Why is he still here? I have yet to meet anyone who's pro Peely. I have nothing left except for Jonesy. To be fair, the ending does set up what to realistically expect, with Sloan saying, "The future is different." And she basically breaks the fourth wall, looks at the viewer and says, and I quote, "We are no longer exclusively putting a majority of our resources into the Battle Royale mode or its story. We are just going to hope the plot continues to make sense. We might occasionally bring back characters, but it does not matter since the story is convoluted in time travel and the multiverse means that we can completely ignore the problems of the plot." Yeah, Fortnite! The finale sure is a finale. Chapter 1, Big Bang happens. It's time to introduce the Guitar Hero mode, the Lego mode, and the Rocket Racing mode, which has already been banished to save the world hell. Give it some time. Both of the other ones could easily be abandoned. It's happened before. It can happen again. Don't quote me on this, but I don't think the epic Eminem rap battle sing-along event is really gonna save you. So now, here we are, the most recent portion of Fortnite for like 2 or 3 weeks until this thing is instantly outdated. Chapter 5. Now, Jones is the sole protector of Fortopia, leading a new band of loopers. I'm actually not sure if the loop is still a thing anymore. It's called the Underground now. Other members include Peely and his fellow industry plant, Hope. And Hope is very important. I don't know why they made Hope so important, but she's more prominent than Jones now. Say hello, she's permanent. We also got Solid Snake from the Metal Gear franchise. Cool. Season 1 follows them trying to rescue Peely because he gets captured by the villain organization of the weak, the Society. A group of wealthy powerhouses with the goal of finding Pandora's box, which is located on the Chapter 5 island. It will probably be important in Chapter 6. We'll find out. This team is led by Hope's sister, Valeria. That sounds like a disease. Additional members of this dangerous, mighty league threatening the underground and Peely include Montague, this tiger guy, and Peter Griffin. Peter Griffin is the mob boss of a high society in Fortnite. I'm glad it was you. But the Pandora's box will eventually show up, and out comes a big bundle of energy in the pantheon of Olympus, who just want to go and play Fortnite. And Valeria takes this time to drain the bank accounts of everybody in the high society, literally bringing Peter back to square one like a Family Guy episode. And Hope's family's bank account somehow, she gets so upset, she shuts down the underground for a month. She like hides in her room, arms crossed in the corner, probably wearing a dunce hat. This season, in specific, sees Zeus get upset that competitive players are bitching on Twitter about the fun seasonal weapons from Avatar, therefore they all get tremendously nerfed or temporarily removed because competitive players don't like anything and they like ruining fun and we hate them. So justifiably, Zeus tries to destroy all the loopers permanently. He fails, he chills out, now there's a sandstorm. Next season, now we got Megalodon. This is a guy alongside his band of wastelanders, want to set up a pipeline that'll destroy the island. How riveting, how original! Hope starts grabbing and gobbling up some gems that let her see visions. This is your Mary Sue, this is your new protagonist. I hope you're happy. As this is going on, we got another fun, funky little guy, the Wanderer, just a cloaked fella insisting that Megalodon will succeed among other things. And guess what? He doesn't. It was a setup, because the Wanderer is a version of Marvel's Doctor Doom. Marvel will never not be relevant to this story. Chapter 5, Season 4, August 15th, 2024. The start of the most recent major period in Fortnite's story until Chapter 6 releases. It released last week. When this video releases, it will be a week old. So basically, Doctor Doom's back. This time, instead of being randomly summoned and taking over Pleasant Park, he wants Fortnite. Galactus is also dead in the ocean. It's still technically unknown whatever iconic industry plant Hope is gonna do after this, but she works alongside Jonesy, Peely, the X-Men, and anyone else who's technically still alive and on the good guy's side. It's hard to tell anymore. As for the following months, the Fortnite gang prepares some graffiti beacons and rifts to stop Doom. And this brings a lot of issues to the island. In exchange for defeating Doom, another Fortnitemares event comes to the island, wrecks everybody's stuff, bang bang boop boop bop bop. Chapter 5 is over. Doom is defeated, and for the sake of money, it's time for new Fortnite stuff. Oh, also Hope, she has magic graffiti. I'm sure this isn't gonna impact the timeline one bit. Snoop Dogg has now replaced Midas in Chapter 2, and Juice WRLD is looming over like Galactus did. This is all a dream, it's not canon, but it might as well be, because I don't know. I just feel like it should be canon. The fact that this event in specific is implied to be a dream is... Sure. I'm done, though. I've reached the summit of Fortnite for about 2 to 3 more weeks. Fortnite lore is just like the game and the community itself. It's incoherent, it can be very annoying, sometimes it's very funny, sometimes I scratch my head in confusion, and sometimes it's borderly baffling to see in real time. But damn it, I enjoy it either way, despite how much of a mess it is, and hopefully, in the future we can still appreciate Fortnite as much as it is socially acceptable. I would like to see the 7 return, but in the end, Fortnite's story is never gonna end. There will never be a satisfying conclusion. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I would love to eat my words, but I'm so confident in this fact. So long as there is a fan base to play, there will never be a satisfying ending. Or not, you know, come back on December 7th, 2034, let me know. Wowee, who would have guessed that Fortnite, a live service game working with Disney that gets new content on a weekly basis, updates on a weekly basis? Conveniently, this recap is going to be out by the time that Chapter 6 releases. I'm recording this at the start of Chapter 6, so I already know everything up to this point. I'm completely blind from here on out. Again, all I know is Godzilla and Baymax. completely oblivious from here on out, but I'm sure it will be pretty cool. It'll be pretty good. You know, Fortnite's been pretty fun consistently, but you know, it has problems like anything else does. Well, fellas, I'm clocking out. Fortnite Chapter 1 is a permanent mode now, and Chapter 6 just came out, so go check it out if you like Fortnite. Look at Fortnite, or watch my videos. You can use it as background noise while playing Fortnite. You do that. You can do the best of both worlds. I highly recommend it. I'm probably very funny. Otherwise, take a look at my guild statistic and subscribe. Use my GamerSubs code if you like GamerSubs. Follow me on my socials, and most importantly, play the end screen. Why am I working on vacation? Oh, would you look at that? Just like in Fortnite.